Today we're joined by Ken Johnston, who is a former journalist and defense media chief. Ken returned to his roots in County Down, Northern Ireland, after living in London and traveling the world. Today he will be sharing a little bit about his hometown, which he says is an undiscovered gem in the Emerald Isle. And we are very excited to hear what he has to say. So I'm going to pass the microphone over to Ken, who will present um, a little bit about his hometown, and then we can open up the floor to a Q&A for anyone that is joining. Sound good? Great.
Ready to
Okay, let me pin you. Great.
Okay. Right. Well, a very warm welcome. Well, maybe not as warm because the wind has arrived today with a little bit of a bite on it. Now, you'll forgive me all, I know, because I only got back into Northern Ireland this morning. I had to take the car to Scotland, to Glasgow, to get it MOT'd. And it was nice to have a brief respite and drive away from the land of saints and scholars. Yeah, the land of saints and scholars, but it's also a land of, how shall I say, sinners and scoundrels too. But interesting to note on the ferry, I caught the early morning ferry from Ryan to return to Northern Ireland. And Newton Ards is only 40 minutes maximum drive away from the ferry, 30 minutes away from the nearest airport. In fact, there's a small airport at hand here, and if you do want to fly in privately, you're more than welcome. You turn over the top of my roof here at home and straight into the landing strip. But on the boat this morning, on the way from Scotland, we had entertainment. Why? Because there must have been almost 30 to 40 coaches of tourists arriving in Northern Ireland, coming from all corners of the world, most of them actually Japanese. Now, it was very entertaining because we were only on the Stena Line ferry from Ryan, but a lot of the Japanese ladies, for some reason, thought they might have been on Titanic. And I was sitting having an early breakfast at a window. They couldn't see me, but I could see them, and they were all performing as if they were on the bow of Titanic just before she hit the iceberg and went down. So I had actually a very entertaining morning watching them as the wind blew them all shapes. But what caught me particularly was the fact that they were all on coaches. The coaches drove onto the ferry and drove off and then disappeared. Now, yes, they'll go, they will see a lot of the lovely sights that there are, but they will do it at speed. And I'm sure, I think I could probably, if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I don't like to lose money, I like to see it in my hip pocket. But I would say they went probably straight to the Titanic Centre in Belfast. They were whisked around that. They got to talk, they'd seen all the photographs, and then they would have zapped up to the Giant's Causeway. And that would have only taken them maybe 45, 50 minutes by coach. But they would have walked in the sunshine down the cliff, looked at Giant's Causeway, got their photographs, and then zipped back again. Possibly, if some of them were staying longer, across to the lakelands of Fermanagh or into the Mourne Mountains. Now, that's wonderful, but they probably paid quite expensively to do that, and there's so much they've missed. Now, I'll give you a simple example. Um, I had a friend who traveled the world a long, long time ago. His family were a folk group, the Sands family. They were quite big in Eastern Europe at one stage, but Tommy lived in the middle of the Mourne Mountains, and he was an international traveller at that time, many years ago. And I said, Tommy, the Mourne Mountains, that's a pretty bleak spot at times. Um, how do you manage to get your way from there to go to all arts and parts around the globe? And Tommy said, Ken, you've got to remember there's a crossroads just beyond the gate of the farm. One road sets off to the west. And you know what? When you set off on that road, you don't stop really until you hit New York. The other road will go east. And he said, I haven't stopped on that road till I'm in Berlin. The other road goes south, and I haven't really tried it yet, but I will. And that's the interesting thing about Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland, it's, if I can say, my part of Northern Ireland anyway, in County Down, is a doorway that is open to the whole of Ireland. But people miss it coming in and disappearing off to go and see. Well, they disappear, and in an hour, 2 hours time, they're going to be kissing the brownish stone, or in an hour and a half's time, they're going to be starting to travel up the West Atlantic Way, where the waves will crash in, and they will hear Gaelic spoken. They will find the old-fashioned ways. I done the West Atlantic Way on the motorbike the other day. Um, Nice journey and really quaint, because I remember stopping. I got lost. I was looking particularly for the Cliffs of Moher, and I was on a back road on the motorbike, and I stopped. A family was cutting hay, and I asked for directions. And you know, the old fashioned way in Ireland was, well, you'll have to ask himself. Well, who is himself? Himself was the old grandfather who was sitting puffing on a pipe on a tractor, not doing any work. But the family wouldn't explain anything to me until the grandfather spoke. And then he told me, do you know what? You're on the wrong road. I wouldn't give you directions from here. You'd be better to go to. And he started, do you know, I would have needed an encyclopedia to work out where he was telling me. But actually, it was only 400 or 500 yards to a crossroads, and it would have took me straight to it. But it's the Irish way. It's slow down. And that's what's wrong with tourism today, in particularly in Northern Ireland. It's all at a very fast pace. People don't realise there's so much if they just slow down and take it all in. Now, last week, for example, I was asked to take part in a charity motorbike outing. Um, I should have more sense at my age, but I haven't. I'm afraid I have to apologise. 1,000 bikers turned up to go in aid of the Northern Ireland Air Ambulance. Now, if you've tried to travel on the back roads in Northern Ireland with 1,000 bikers, oh, we were okay. We had police escort front and back to keep us in pace and keep us moving. But, my days of racing on country roads are long gone, and I intend to go back again on that route, because I thought I knew we were only less than 40 minutes away from here. And I think I was quite confident in knowing every back road and every twist and every turn in the locality. I wasn't. And I spotted things at speed in the middle of those bikers that I thought, you know what, for goodness sake, I'm sad I'm on this, because I'd like to stop and just pause and take a look at some of the things that I've seen in some of the little places. And I will do that journey probably in a day or two's time. But that, in effect, is Northern Ireland. As I said to you, yes, saints and scholars, yes, that's the old reputation. And the people are wonderful. They're very easygoing. But we do also have scoundrels, so we've got sinners as well. And at the moment, of course, yeah, there's a lot of unrest, just as there is everywhere. Not here. I never hear a thing up where I am here in Newton Ards. It's so quiet and so peaceful. There's the odd idiot about that doesn't play by the rules, but they're few and far between. So it's a very peaceful part of the world. But I just picked up uh, the other day in the local tourist office. If I'd have went further to the one in Belfast, I'd have been armed to the teeth. But the amount of literature that's available for people to peruse, what's known as, and I'll give you an idea, St. Patrick's Country. Well, my garden runs up to an old building called Movilla Abbey, where St. Columba, who was a prince in Donegal, came to be educated in the 6th century, and then went off to Scotland and took Christianity to Scotland. And that old abbey just sits at the tale of my garden. Some of these days I must dig deep and find out if they left anything behind. But St. Patrick walked here. In fact, if you listen to the tales, he practically walked everywhere in Ireland, including every mountain and every well. At some stage, he stopped in them. Now, I wonder how he managed to do that because, you know, some of them were pretty archaic in the years gone by. Um, I was doing my own family history, for example, and I've got back in paperwork about 230, 240 years. Uh, but then we go back a little bit further to the 13th century, where Johnstons arrived with John Bruce, a brother of Robert the Bruce, the King of Scotland. But John Bruce came over to claim the crown of Ireland, and he brought a pile of Scots border people with him, and we were some of those people, the Johnston clan. He lost the crown in a battle with the English in 1240, or sorry, 1340, at a place called the Fohan Valley. And he's buried there. The Johnstons actually escaped into County Down. We've been here ever since. But the British records for the 1300s show that a troop of horse was sent north from Dublin to rout the Johnstons and others out of the barony of Lochiel. Well, they failed, and there was never a report of that troop of horses arriving back again in Dublin because they were all country roads, they were all forested, and they were all townlands and run by different chieftains. So I'm sure they had a difficult time. But somebody asked a question there: how far is it travel from this part of the world to anywhere? Well, as I say, just been to Scotland to get the car MOT'd. Beautiful, and I was going through the border counties. But if I wanted to go into the Highlands and see the mountains, you were looking at 3 or 4 hours drive if the traffic was willing. If I wanted to go to the nice lakes down in Cumbria, the Lake District, again another 4 or 5 hours driving would have got me there. Ironically, from here where I am, I'm sitting, as I say, in Newtownards at the entrance to County Down. I've Loch Ness, the largest inland lake in the whole of the British Isles, which is less than 30 minutes drive from here. I've got the Irish Sea, 10 minutes drive from the back garden. I've got Strangford Lough to the left, which is the largest inlet of water in the British Isles. Tidal, fascinating place. But again, that's only 5 minutes down the road. If I want to go to the Lakelands in Fermanagh and boat, I can go the whole length of Ireland through the Shannon Waterway. It'll take me 35, 40 minutes to drive to the Fermanagh Lakes. If I want to go to the Mourne Mountains, I can be in the Mourne Mountains in less than 40 minutes. That's how quick everything is. If I want to go to Dublin, Dublin motorway, I can be there steadily driving for 1 hour, 15 minutes maximum. So that's how accessible it all is here. And quite honestly, I would suggest anybody coming to this part of the world really will find that everything is within easy reach. But that's if you want to go, because the whole of the county is riddled with whatever you want: history, character, trails, mountains, waterways, sport. It's just an absolutely incredible place. Um, Last week, I took a day trip well, not a day trip. I went in the morning and spent the day at Grey Abbey, which is an old abbey, an old Cistercian abbey just down the road from here. And I learned things that I never knew in my life before. It's called Grey Abbey because the monks wore grey. We also have White Abbey. We're very simple people. We also have White Abbey on the other side of Belfast Law. That's because the monks there wore white, and that's how the local people deal with it. So there's everything that you want here within easy reach. Slow down and enjoy it. Now, some people want shopping. There's good shops, not overly priced, but you can find everything you want if you look around. Food wise, agriculturally, we're very strong with, well, Comber potatoes are recognized around the world as the best. They're grown on volcanic soil, and the taste when they come out, the fresh crop in June, is absolutely just balls of flour. You don't need anything else with them. A little bit of butter, a little bit of black pepper. Um, we've two fishing fleets operating out of the county just down the road from here, 15, 20 minutes away at Kilkeel and Ardglass. Prawns, cod, haddock, it's all fresh. You'll not get a stale fish anywhere in Northern Ireland. If you do, there's a problem. So as I say, it's accessible and it's very welcoming. And I would suggest that people want to come to Ireland. You don't necessarily have to fly into Dublin or fly into Cork or Knock or anywhere else and get trundled around. If you want to take your time and explore your own family history or just the history locally or just savor good food, I was going to say wine. We're not a wine nation. That's one thing we are not. We do have Blackbush, Bushmills Distillery, the oldest distillery in the world, is in County Antrim. It's about an hour from here. Um, it predates most of the Scottish distilleries. It certainly predates most of the, if not all of the Irish distilleries, and it's quite pleasant. So yeah, we've got whiskey. They've started to develop a couple of gin distilleries as well around the country. But if you want good wine, it's imported. Up to yourself. So I'll leave the floor open if anybody has any questions, and I'm happy to try and answer anything that anybody has.
I can kick us off. Well, you mentioned the food. Is there any like local dishes that someone must try if they're visiting Northern Ireland?
Um, yes, this is going to sound very strange, very, very cheap as well too. But as I say, produce here agriculturally, the beef, the steak, sublime. It's absolutely wonderful place for agricultural produce. But there is a local delicacy which is called a pasty, and it's not like a Cornish pasty. Here, if you go to a butcher's shop and ask for a pasty, you will get, it's almost like sausage meat, but it's done. Each butcher will come out with his own herbal additions, and then it's covered in batter. And it's usually just deep fried. I usually stick a spray of oil on it and put it in an air fryer. And it is a very tasty, very, 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 very tasty dish. Very economical as well. And champ is another one. And it's to go back to potatoes, but people here will eat champ. Champ is basically the floury potatoes mashed with spring onions and a little bit of milk and a little bit of black pepper. And that's what you get in Northern Ireland when you ask for champ. We're also very good on our breads, strangely enough, too. Potato bread. Potato bread, very tasty. Again, some of it made with a little bit of spring onion to the flavour to it. Soda bread, wheaten bread. Yeah, it's basic food, but it's quite healthy and quite tasty.
Thank you. I know you guys have pretty similar weather to the UK, but would you say there's like a season that's the best time to visit?
Well, it's to what Billy Connolly said, there's no such thing as bad weather, there's just bad choice of clothing. And for example, it's been glorious here for the last month. Well, not glorious, but it's been very pleasant. In centigrade terms, we're talking in the mid 20s, which is very, very comfortable. And I got a lot of work done in the garden. Today, it's dry, no rain, but there is a little bit of a wind coming through. So I've avoided going into the garden simply because of that today. But again, it's not uncomfortable as long as you've got a jacket. It's bearable. Um, you will be surprised, and I was a bit like it myself when I come back to Northern Ireland after a number of years away. The first time we flew in, I looked out and I said, "My goodness." They talk about the old song of 40 Shades of Green. It's amazing just how green everything is. And then I realized why. It's either raining or about to rain, or it mightn't be too far away, or you'll have a soft mist, a nice soft Irish mist to keep it damp. So, yeah, the, the air can be a little bit damp. Just be prepared to bring some little light weatherproof stuff with you, and you'll be fine.
Great, thank you. And apologies. My American is showing. I know that Northern Ireland is the UK. But thank you. What would you say like the road infrastructure is like if somebody were to be visiting, would you say that it's safe to rent a car, and drive?
It's very easy to drive. It's absolutely a simple job to drive. Um, I honestly, I go to London probably once a month for meetings, and when I touch down and get out of Heathrow and hit the motorway and see the traffic built up in front of me, I think, oh my goodness, do I have to really go through all this again? Why can't I be back in Northern Ireland? Because if if I want to get anywhere here, a traffic jam will consist probably of three cars waiting at a crossroads to get across, and that's it. Somebody asked a question.
Oh, I think you accidentally muted yourself, but
Yeah, sorry, I missed a question. Somebody asked about solving a mystery. Um, Maybe if I hand over to them, they can ask the question. I missed what it was. They're coming up on the screen. But yeah, it is a land of mysteries. Don't take them all at face value. St. Patrick, in fact, is one mystery that has not been solved. It's said that he rid Ireland of snakes. Well, the truth is there were never any snakes got this far. The Ice Age beat them back. They only got into England. They didn't get to Ireland. So St. Patrick didn't have the difficulty of beating them out. Um, St. Patrick is also said to be buried at Downpatrick. And the old story goes that when he passed away, they put his body onto a horse and cart, give the horse a bit of a slap, and waited until it stopped. And it stopped on a hill in a place called Down, and that's where he's meant to be buried. Well, actually, not so long ago, I was at Glastonbury, and I discovered that St. Patrick actually retired from his bishopry in Ireland, and he and a handful of monks went to Glastonbury, and he had a happy retirement and is said to be buried at Glastonbury. So, what is the truth? Lord only knows. I take it all with a pinch of salt. And again, as I said, he's everywhere that you go, you will see St. Patrick's Wells. St. Patrick climbed to the top of this mountain, climbed to the bottom of the. My goodness, he must have been Superman to be in so many places and up and down so many wells. I think it's a land of legend. Take it take it with a pinch of salt.
Martina in the chat, she asked why they cut their hedges up north. Are there regulations for the cutting season? She said that she's in the south and they're a little bit more relaxed about cutting hedges.
Yes, they're quite sharp up here in the north. The Department of Agriculture uh, specifies that there will be no cutting of hedges during the breeding season for the birds. you know, Give the young birds a chance to egg at some cover and produce the young and grow. So really, through the summer months, no cutting of hedges, and definitely no burning. And they're quite rigid. I had a cottage down in the County Down coast a long time ago, and I planted potatoes simply to break up the soil. I wasn't going to eat them. And a knock came to the door, and there was this gentleman with a clipboard who said he was from the Department of Agriculture. I said, "Yeah, can I help you?" He said, "Yes, you know that this area is an eelworm infestation area." I said, "Eelworms, never heard of them." He says, "Yeah, we're frightened of eelworms developing and getting into the agricultural land, and we understand you're growing potatoes." I said, "What?" I said, "It's a small garden, uh, less than 40 foot in length, and I've only got a couple of rows of potatoes. So I can't understand. How do you know I'm growing potatoes?" "Oh," he said, "we do undertake aerial surveys," and that's what happened. So they must have had flown over my garden, small as it was, spotted that I was growing potatoes, and said, "No, you're not allowed to eat them, and they have to be destroyed." They're very strict on agriculture, very strict on the wildlife.
Very interesting. Has anyone been to Northern Ireland, or does anybody have any plans to visit anytime soon? Anyone on the call?
Yeah, I'm hoping to get there next year. My grandmother was actually born in Kilkeel, and I just learned, I actually just learned who she was and where her family was from in 2016. And she died when my dad was about 7 years old. So, you know, we kind of lost contact with the family, but now I've got hundreds and thousands, I think, of DNA matches with people from that area. And so I'm hoping to get, especially to Kilkeel and to Letterkenny, where my grandfather was born. They met in Colorado and got married there, and then moved to Canada. So I'm in Canada. So I've been thinking about it, and I was looking at tours, and very few go into Northern Ireland. Most of them stick in the south, and I thought I gotta do it on my own, I guess, and just make some plans and drive. I'm a bit leery about driving on the left-hand side of the road.
Well,
I'm
I wouldn't.
leery in driving anyway, but
That's okay. Well, there's a good public transport system. So, quite honestly, if you were wary and didn't want to book a cab or taxi or anything like that, to be honest with you, Kilkeel, there's an express bus service runs from Belfast. You can get a good deal flying into Belfast International Airport. Jump on an express bus will take you into Belfast city centre, and another express coach will take you straight to Kilkeel. Now, you may have to suffer a little bit of a wait of maybe a half an hour maybe in Belfast, but there's a couple of coffee shops at the bus centre, not a big problem. That's all a possibility, and there is one good hotel in Kilkeel itself. There are a couple of very good hotels in the area nearby, in and around the Mourne Mountains, and there's a lot of bed and breakfast. Plenty of facilities, so you can travel and you can transit. That's not a problem. Kilkeel's an interesting place to visit. It's an old Ulster Scot strong land. In fact, part of my own family came through Kilkeel in the distant past when we went back and forward and traded with the Irish in Scotland. And then Letterkenny, you're you're really on the side of the Mourne Mountains. To get to Letterkenny, if you're not wanting to drive or not wanting, I would go back to Belfast, and then there's a train link straight to Dublin, and a train will take you back up to Letterkenny, or a coach from Dublin. It's
Oh,
all
okay.
good. Just slow down and enjoy the countryside as you travel.
Right. Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yes, and Maureen, Martina just put in the chat, there's a company, the Royal Irish Tours, which is an Irish Canadian company that tours in Ireland and Northern Ireland.
Pardon, what was that? Oh, it's in the chat. I can look in the
Yeah,
chat.
it's called Royal Irish Tours.
Yeah, I know them. I know them because I have a friend in Sarnia in Canada, uh, and I linked up with them. Oh, 2 years ago, they were on a Royal Irish tour some years ago, and they had been round Bunratty Castle. They'd done a part of the Atlantic coast, and they wanted to come back slow time and spent more time exploring. And I linked in with them, met them, and I took them to the Cliffs of Moher, and we spent a couple of days in Galway City because they had a wonderful time with the tour. Such a wonderful time that they wish the bus had broken down so that they could stop and stare for a lot longer. That's the capture of this neck of the woods. Time. There just isn't enough of it to enjoy and savor.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Does anybody else have any questions they'd like to ask Ken?
I guess getting back to the food part, I recently read a blog by someone who'd spent a couple of weeks in Donegal, and she said, it was very difficult to get like good fresh greens and salads and that kind of stuff. Like, and pub food was not that. She missed her salads, and I just wondered if there's a secret to getting some salads in Northern Ireland or in Donegal.
Solid food should not be a problem in Northern Ireland. Donegal, of course, is in the Republic of Ireland. Um, and the food is good. And if you go to some of the good eating houses, even in Donegal, you'll find plenty of salad in the right spot. But I suppose really they're very keen. I know in Donegal and on that west coast, they're very keen on fresh caught salmon. Um, and I don't know whether it would be in your taste at all, but dulse seaweed.
Oh,
And
seaweed. Might
yeah,
try it. I think I have tried some, yeah.
well, there is, I forget the name of it now, but there was a dessert I had in a hotel in Donegal some time ago, and it was made purely of dulse. It was green, and it came out in a lovely, it was so tasty, absolutely wonderful, uh, and very nutritious too. I love to go back sometime and try it. So, as I say, yeah, the trouble with I suppose most bars, they don't really think of the vegetables
Right,
because,
yeah.
yeah, well, certainly not the greens as such, because unless they're grown in greenhouses, lettuce, peas, beans, short supply, probably in the Irish climate. What's in good supply? Definitely fresh caught salmon, fresh caught trout, fresh caught scampi or prawns, and lots of potatoes. Very, very. There's no shortage of potatoes. There might have been a famine a few hundred years ago. There sure isn't a famine these days.
Yeah, I could eat potatoes, yeah, right. My
Well,
dad used to call them spuds. I thought that was an Irish thing, spud. They called potatoes spuds.
they're called many a thing. There's spuds, potatoes, tatties, Murphy's is another name some of them would give. It depends on where you are. But yeah, the potatoes are pretty popular. Uh, But things have tightened up a lot now. I did stay in one hotel not that far from Letterkenny. I had breakfast and it was so fresh. I will swear the pig had been slaughtered that morning
Oh,
outside the window of the kitchen. Because thank goodness they've tightened up on it. But in those days, the pig had just been skinned because there were still hairs on the part of the flesh when it came out on the table. So you got to live and bear these things a little bit. So I didn't eat the flesh. I just had a little bit of bacon. But yeah,
mm,
now as long as you like the simple food, there'll be no
right.
shortage.
Yeah. I was also thinking, like, I know some places they use different words to greet each other or something than we do in Canada. Like we would say hi or hello or, how do people greet each other in Ireland?
It depends on where you are, and a slip of the head is usually enough. How you doing? Hello is fine everywhere, but how are you?
How are
Now,
you?
certainly,
Yeah.
how are you? Yes. In other words, how are you keeping? Or in some parts they would say, how are you cutting? In other words, are you feeling healthy? Are you feeling fine? And then there's parts now in the border areas. It's a strange area. Everybody sort of greets each other by saying absolutely nothing. It's just a no. You get a nod. That's it. Or if you're driving, you don't wave at anybody. It's the one finger. You're driving
Oh,
along,
really?
steering, and you just put the one finger up, and you'll get a finger back, and that would be a local person. So there are
Oh,
little nuances,
that could
but
be an insult over here.
it could be. It could be, and you have to be very, very delicate. Uh, well, you keep the finger pointing that direction rather than that direction, so it's acceptable. Or yeah, it could be an insult in many other parts of the world too if you had it the wrong way
Yeah.
round. You have to live and learn. But no, just a nod of the head. How are you? That's plenty. That's
Oh,
fine.
yeah. Yeah, I find that, when I go out walking, if you're walking in an area like a city, like if I'm in Vancouver, and you're walking around Stanley Park, nobody says anything to anybody, if you did, you'd probably get put in the loony bin, for for talking
Well,
too much. But, in where I live now in a smaller place, everybody, when I'm out
yes,
walking,
you break mold.
they'll
And
say hello or whatever.
well, I have friends in Dallas, in Texas, and they live just at the side of a little creek in North Dallas, in Plano. And I had to go out walking in the morning to go get cigarettes and coffee. Life to me uh, is very homeopathic. If I've got caffeine and nicotine, I can survive almost anything. But on the way to go to the garage to pick up my cigarettes, all these people were out jogging. And you're right, they didn't speak, but I spoke. So when somebody went past, hello, how's things? They stopped. Do you know, it took me hours because they loved to have a conversation. Oh, gee, where are you from? I told them, and then they'd be great. So they loved it. They loved if somebody took the initiative. And I would say in Vancouver, it might well be the same now. The difference is in the city. Uh, this was a little country area, as I say, north of Dallas. It may be different in the city. But a trick I learned in London, because I spent 16 years living in London and I detested having to navigate down Oxford Street and Regent Street to get to work in the crowds who were out shopping. And I learned a trick. And the trick was look over the top of their heads. If people are coming at you en masse and they can see that you've seen them, they expect you to move out of the road. So I tried it as an experiment one day. It works. Look totally over their head. Make sure that they don't see you, that you can see them. They'll move out of your way. Believe me. Think that you have seen them, they'd expect you to move. Just ignore them totally. So there you go. Yeah, no, you can try that one in Vancouver or Toronto and see what happens.
Okay. let somebody else have a chance here.
Peter says that it's a great tip to navigate crowds in the chat.
Yeah, it is. It's a very useful one. As I say, I tried it one day at work retreat. I've to go back to London in another couple of weeks for a meeting. And once again, I'll have to go down Oxford Street. And you know what? I will ignore everybody as I walk down and look over the top of their heads. But I remember an old lady one time at a reception one time in London saying to me that it must be marvellous to get to the city away from Northern Ireland because it was so sophisticated. And I said, why? Well, she said, think of all the stores, all the shops. And I said, well, we've got running water now in the houses in Northern Ireland. We've got electricity too. And, we're nothing runs by gaslight. We're pretty civilized. I said, but there's one problem that you have that we don't have. And she looked at me and said, what do you mean? I said, the footpaths, the pavements are too hard. She said, what do you mean they're too hard? I said, where I come from, there's still a bit of give and take in the soil because they haven't been trampled down. Here, they've been trampled flat, and I end up with sore feet walking round. No, I'll go back to Northern Ireland, and believe me, I can walk a heck of a lot further than I can around London or any other city. So, just one of the little nuances.
Wonderful. Well, does anybody have any last minute questions for Ken before we wrap up? If something comes to you later today, Ken is also on the Freebird Club website. You can link his profile in the chat. You guys,
yeah, any questions? Certainly, if you want to give them my email or whatever, that's not a problem. I can respond. That's an easy solve.
And thanks a million for that. I found that very enlightening. I'm actually from Kerry originally, but I absolutely love Northern Ireland. Kerry's and the southwest of Ireland is known to be, beautiful, wild Atlantic way at its best and all that. But anytime I've been up in the north, and particularly around the coastal areas, like it gives Kerry a run for its money. It's absolutely beautiful scenery up there. But one thing I want to say to you, are you from Newtownards?
Well, yeah, I'm on a hill overlooking Newtownards. In fact, if I'll just turn the camera around, and
That looks very exotic.
yeah,
Palm trees.
I've got the town down below me. To the left, I've got Strangford Lough and the Mourne Mountains, and to this side, I've got the Castlereagh Hills, and then drops down into Belfast Lough. So it's ideal.
Yeah.
As I say, I can be in Belfast City Airport in 10 minutes from here on the motorbike, free parking as well. I can abandon it and disappear. So,
I actually associate Northern Ireland and particularly your part of it with music because one of the absolute top guitars in the world are made actually in Newtownards, the Loudon guitar, Lowden. I actually have one. It's my prized possession, but they're handmade in Newtownards, and like everyone from Eric Clapton to Mark Knopfler and Ed Sheeran and Van Morrison and all the great and the good play Loudon guitars, and it's one of the finest guitar instruments made anywhere in the world.
Well, I wish you luck with that one. There's a guitar festival once every year in Newtownards, and they bring in. I don't go along. I've got a friend who is very keen on guitars. He usually goes to a lot of the concerts and listens in. But you're quite right. Yeah, it's Loudon has an awfully big reputation, and Newtownards, as I say, has that festival once a year. It's quite an attraction. So yeah,
And generally speaking, if you were interested, if you were in the area of County Down generally, and you wanted to see live music, would it be good for seeing kind of music in bars and traditional music or live music generally?
No. I would suggest if you check out, have I got it here? There's a website, Visit Arts, or Gateways to Strangford and Nikhil. I would suggest that if you went on Google and done Visit Arts, the council have a very good tourist office and a very good calendar of events, and all their contact details will be on there. They will able to give you a forecast of when the festival, the guitar festival, music festivals are coming up. Um, there's such a variety of music here; it would be hard to pin down. I wouldn't say that there's a great reputation with any of the bars for local traditional music as such, but you have such a variety of music. You have all sorts of different bands at different concerts and different things happening. But check out Google, Visit Arts and North Down, and they'll give you the dates of that guitar festival. It's a chap called Alistair McDowell, used to be the promotions manager of Downtown Radio. I was head of news on it years and years ago. Alistair, he runs, or did in fact start that guitar festival going for the council, and it is quite a big draw once a year. So I would suggest if you were planning a visit, time it around when things are happening, rather than just coming sort of ad hoc if you've
Yeah.
got that specialist interest.
Yeah, no, I'd love to go to that festival because I always thought I'd like to visit that Loudon factory because they handcraft these guitars like it's a real
Yeah,
it's
well,
high-end craftsmanship. So
I'm sure that could be arranged. Now they
mhm,
do tours and visits around local crafts here from time to time through the council. They've got all the contact details and all the links. And if you expressed an interest, I'm sure that could be arranged. And if you could go down even as a oncer and see Loudon and talk to them and see the work
yeah,
yourself.
yeah, that's great. Thanks a million, Ken.
Not at all pleasure.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Ken, for taking the time to present today. I sent your profile in the chat, but if anybody has any other questions for Ken, you can reach out to him on Freebird or you can reach out to us and we can connect you. But yeah, so thank you so much for coming. For those of you who haven't looked at the calendar, let me unpin you quickly. For those of you who haven't looked at the calendar, we just added an event today, next Wednesday at 4 p.m. So same time as this call, which is a Solo Travelers Connect event, which is our first like digital mixer for people who are interested in solo traveling, who might want to plan a trip. We'll do some breakout rooms and some icebreakers just to connect you with some other members. And you can RSVP on our website, as well as I'll send out an email later today with the link to RSVP and hopefully see you there. And then the following week, we do have a Freebird Club member, Mark, who is doing a introductory to travel photography for iPhones and for Samsung phones. For those of you who are looking to perfect your travel photos when you go on vacation, because I know for me, I struggle with, I feel like capturing what even something so beautiful, I can't get it in a photo. So I will also be there. But yeah, so great to see you all. And I hope you all have a great rest of your week and hopefully see you